And then is the verse 39 is how we come to establish basically the indirect valid things. And any affirmation whatsoever it may be must affirm other existence or identities. And any negations whatsoever it may be must negate other existence or identities. And generally, there is like different translations. It says like when you are talking about existence and the identities, it means it's like if you summarize about the affirmations, whatsoever the affirmations, and it's conformably to saying under the has or is or existence or identities. And it is logically, and if you say affirmation, when we look at the object of the computers, and then we apply the logicals, and then affirmation of the how it is, these computers. And there is a true kind of the two ways, the affirmation or the negations, yes or no, or to have or it is, or it is existence or identities. Maybe this translation they said. I mean, it's not these two. It's true of the affirmation and the negations. And the negations, these two are. For example, this computer is the basic, these things. This is the signal, or this is the like basic what we are analyze. And say this computer is compounded, impermanent. And if we say it's like, because it is momentary nature, because it is the like kind of many different collective things. And then that is like kind of the affirmation, and also you can to say existence or identities. And then it's like, oh, this computer is impermanent, or you say it's opposite. Permanent, both. Which ones? Permanent, but it is compounded and momentary nature. And then it's like it's negations. You need to say the negate other existence or the identities, because it's like on the base of these things, what you describe, say is like the negative, and it's no existence, because the like permanent under these computers, there's no have this kind of feature under these computers, and also there is nothing kind of that is the identities. And therefore, any kind of each phenomena, when we are talking about, and there's two things, affirmation and negations. And also all the affirmations are the yes or no, or is existent or identities. And also the negations, we can to say is like there's existence or identities, like neither. And that is like a kind of the accomplishment. And like someone says like the assertion or the negations, you can to say is like as a different aspect of the assertion or affirmations. There are many different to be, but may all we can to resume under the either like existence or the identities. Do you understand that it's like maybe it's to say that yes or no. The other one is the has and is. This is. Do you understand? This help. Yod yin. Medoma. And the 40th verse. The negation and affirmations based on what is valid may be set out definitively in the proper way, and then, while remain logically consistent, one can prove a point to others or make a refutations, and think is refutation is maybe is a good reputation or exploded. Refutation. Okay. Here is we can to say is like the we are relying on the, maybe I would say rely on the syllogism or invalid cognitions, and then it's like we like have the affirmations or the negations, and the based classification based like kind of the set out the phenomena through the negation and the affirmations. And then it's like to certainty kind of properly way and properly. Then it's like the while remain logically consistent. That is the most important things. And while remain logically consistent, and the yourself first time is you establish these relative things are, or like things are correctly or incorrectly establish the realities logically, provably, evidently. And like this kind of through the logically, you set out it through the negation, affirmations, based on what is the valid. And this, which is the valid, which is the important, which is the really kind of the truth. It is like not a kind of exaggerated. For example, of course, we don't need to talk about absolute, but relatively. For example, we can say salt is the salt. Salt is not sugar, okay? Salt is salt. Salt is not sugar. And that is the why you say the salt is salt. I'm very sorry, but in the relatively, salt is salt. If you think it's like this is sugar you put in the tea, it's salty, it's not sugary. And then you can to say it's like this, why? Almost who can to give explanation? That is, we can say, is uncontestable. Is in the relative nature is like this. And then it's like, this is the valid, it is a direct valid of this thing in the direct, in the relative reality. We found that is through the valid cognizers. And then it's like we never mix it. When we are like called I need the salty, we never bring the sugar. And we understand that like through the basically they rely on the affirmation and the negations, and like the kind of understood sugar is sugar and salty is salty. And then it's like when we call the sugar or when we call the salt, it's like unmistakenly a brain, because we understood that is the valid. And then said definitively on the proper ways, correctly to proper way, and we are not. Then it's like they remain in our heart logically consistent. Logically consistent is salt is the salt. And also, for example, someone is never ever saw the sugar and the salt. Okay, now news general, they never saw the sugar and the salt, and they put the front of these two things, and then this person's how you can to explain. And this person say, I don't know, both is a color and looks like very much nice. Then it's like you have the logically, like your consistency, your knowledge inside, saying is unmistakenly, this is sugar, this is salt. And you are like kind of expounded, or it's like refutations, and to next generations, and you can to tell him that is the truthly. And through this logically, you establish the really proof things. For example, we haven't got any definitive certainties things, and then how we can to tell to the next generations. Therefore, this logical is very, very important. Also to each phenomenon to like a scientific way and to analyze and the relative things. Of course, when we are like to want to quickly to realize the nature of the realities, okay, single object, I understand that the nature emptiness, thereby I need to see. But in the relatively, not like this, in the worldly and precisely, and also the conceptual mind is using these logical things. And then is all the material things are like you need to firmly to analyze, then you can find what is correct, what is incorrect. You have these knowledges, and then you are in the relatively, you are like kind of omniscient. Maybe inside is you don't know you are omniscient or something. Maybe, but also you can to tell the indirect things through this signal, through this science. You have the. Otherwise, we never to analyze things in the relative things. How we can to tell the futures? Because yesterday we said the present valid things. How is that going on in the presently through this cause effect, the incontestable natures, and through that through these signals, I can to tell to you the further the consequence. If you do like this, surely, definitely result. I haven't a good doubt. I can't to see the future. I can't to like the color it, but future imputation of the images, and I can to almost definitively say, like same as the weather forecast. And some is using the signals, then you can to tell. Like for example, if you learn the Tibetan, how to say, Buddhist mathematics, is we call the astrologies. It's mathematics, okay? To like kind of calculate. Then it's like one whole next years, how it's going to rain, how is the weather is become hot or cold. Every day, which kind of element is more active, not active, which kind of every day is the kind of the combination of the element. They can to tell you. They are not omniscient, but they are very much precise logical calculations, logical like kind of scientific way that the researchers. Then different signals, calculations, then result is like this. This kind of, then through this information and negations, and then you establish properly, correctly, you have this knowledge. Then while it remained this logical consistence, then you can to prove that point to us, prove, your proof. And also, for example, when we talking about the true nature of the realities, or we need to go to the great masters, say, also like receive the pit instructions, true nature, direct to nature. This master itself has needed to experience. You know, this master itself has the evidence. This master itself has the remained logically consistent on each individual experience. Then this has proof a point and to the next generations. And that is because it's to sharing the before own individual own masters, and to have inner individual self-awareness to experience it. And it has, and also it is become like masters. And then is the next generations, their own individual logically consistent, and they can prove a point to others excellently, unmistakenly.